full view of television cameras, Germany's police raided this mosque in Hamburg. The German government says it's a front for Iran. The Interior Ministry says the organization has 5 subdivisions in 53 locations across Germany.
Germany has recently been shaken by a brutal stabbing committed by an illegal immigrant, triggering nationwide outrage and intense debates. This event has put immense pressure on the government and fueled the rise of the right-wing AfD party, leading to a dramatic shift in immigration policies. In response, Germany is now pushing forward with plans to deport thousands of immigrants, with a particular focus on those from Muslim backgrounds.
The Interior Minister described the scenes on the street of Hamburg as unbelievable. Now the federal government is calling to tackle all Islamic activities.
This decision represents a significant turning point in the country's political and social landscape, raising critical questions about the future of immigration and the rights of those already residing in Germany. Join us as we look closely into this evolving story and its potential impact on the nation. Rise of the AfD Party. The rise of the AfD, Allianz für Deutschland Party, is reshaping the political landscape in Germany. What started as a fringe movement in response to the Eurozone crisis has now evolved into a formidable force, tapping into a deep vein of discontent, particularly around immigration. The recent policy shifts in Germany regarding Muslim immigration have provided fertile ground for the AfD to grow, with many seeing the party as the answer to their frustrations. AfD has been strategically positioning itself as the voice of those who feel left behind by mainstream politics, especially on issues like immigration. For years, they have built their narrative around the idea that Germany is losing its identity, and Muslim immigration is often at the heart of their rhetoric. These talking points have resonated with a growing segment of the population, particularly in regions that feel overlooked by the traditional parties. Many citizens, particularly in rural or economically struggling areas, see immigration as the cause of their societal and economic woes, and the AfD has capitalized on these fears. Recent incidents involving Muslim immigrants, particularly any instances tied to crime or cultural tensions, have further bolstered the AfD's message. They portray these incidents as proof that Germany's previous policies, especially under Angela Merkel, were flawed. Merkel's decision to open the borders in 2015, during the height of the refugee crisis, is often referenced as a turning point by the AfD, a decision they argue led to the country being overwhelmed by outsiders who are unwilling or unable to integrate. The AfD's rhetoric is not just about immigration. It's about control. They frame the issue as Germany losing control of its borders, its laws, and ultimately its future. This message has struck a chord with many who feel that their concerns over national security, job competition, and cultural dilution were being ignored by other parties. The more traditional political factions, such as the Christian Democrats or the Social Democrats, are often seen as being too soft on immigration, while the AfD presents itself as the only party willing to take a hardline stance. This positioning has allowed the AfD to steadily gain more votes, particularly in regional elections, where their support has surged. The party's ability to frame the immigration issue in stark, emotional terms has attracted voters who previously might not have engaged with politics at all. For these voters, the AfD's unapologetically nationalist and anti-immigration platform feels like a breath of fresh air, especially in a political climate where other parties are cautious of being labeled xenophobic or racist. The AfD's success is also due to their savvy use of social media. They have mastered the art of creating viral content that taps into the emotions of fear and frustration. Through videos, memes, and sensationalist articles, the AfD has been able to spread their message far and wide, bypassing traditional media outlets, which they often accuse of being biased against them. Their social media presence has particularly appealed to younger voters, who are more likely to get their news from these platforms. As the party continues to grow in influence, it has also started to push the boundaries of acceptable political discourse in Germany. What was once considered extreme is slowly becoming more mainstream as the AfD normalizes hardline positions on immigration and national identity. This shift is troubling for many, but for the AfD, it represents a victory, a sign that their ideas are resonating with a larger portion of the population. In essence, the AfD's rise can be attributed to their ability to tap into a collective feeling of insecurity and dissatisfaction with the status quo. By positioning themselves as the defenders of German culture and national integrity, they have managed to turn a complex issue like immigration into a simple, emotionally charged narrative. This strategy has proven to be highly effective, and unless other political parties find a way to address these underlying concerns, the AfD's influence is likely to continue growing. Recent stabbing incident. The stabbing incident in Solingen, Germany, has left the entire country in a state of shock and fear. On a quiet afternoon in late August 2024, a 26-year-old Syrian man went on a violent rampage, armed with a knife, targeting random victims in a crowded area. His brutal attack left 3 people dead and 8 more seriously injured. The victims were caught off guard as the attacker aimed for their necks and upper bodies, displaying an intense and terrifying level of violence. The attacker, who later turned himself in to the police, had entered Germany illegally. This wasn't just a crime of violence, but one driven by extremist beliefs. He was reportedly inspired by radical Islamic ideologies, seeking to kill as many people as possible. His radicalization was linked to the terrorist group Islamic State, which even claimed responsibility for the incident afterward. The German public's reaction was swift and filled with anger. People across the country were horrified that such an attack could happen on their streets, and even more disturbed to learn that the suspect had been in the country illegally. This revelation added fuel to the fire, as many questioned why someone with extremist beliefs and flagged for deportation had not already been removed. The failure of the immigration system to stop this crime before it happened left a deep scar on the nation. Authorities were quick to respond. Chancellor Olaf Scholz labeled the event a terrorist attack and promised to take decisive action. In a public statement, he emphasized the government's commitment to preventing similar tragedies in the future. Scholz vowed to deport illegal immigrants, particularly those with criminal backgrounds or connections to extremist groups. His words came as both a reassurance to the public and a signal that Germany's immigration policies were about to get much tougher. This tragic event did more than claim lives. It reignited a fierce debate about immigration and public safety in Germany. People were angry, grieving, and demanding change. The attack in Solingen became a symbol of what many saw as the dangers posed by unchecked immigration and the failures of the system to protect its citizens. Now, with mass deportations looming, it's clear that this one incident has triggered a much larger movement in Germany's political landscape. Public outrage and shift in policy. The recent stabbing incident in Solingen, Germany, triggered an intense wave of public outrage that significantly altered the country's stance on immigration policies. The suspect, an illegal immigrant with alleged ties to ISIS, has further fueled the public's frustration, as many citizens felt that the German government had been too lenient on immigration control and security. Public sentiment turned hostile toward the existing immigration policies, leading to increased demands for stricter regulations. Politicians across the spectrum, from the ruling government to opposition parties, scrambled to respond. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz faced growing pressure to tighten immigration rules, and he pledged to make deportations more efficient, particularly targeting individuals deemed a threat to national security. Many felt that this attack was a direct result of a broken system, with critics pointing to loopholes that allowed such individuals to remain in the country despite their asylum being rejected. The incident also gave more fuel to the far-right Allianz für Deutschland AfD party, which has long advocated for a tougher stance on immigration. AfD leaders were quick to capitalize on the incident, linking it to broader concerns about the dangers posed by unchecked immigration, especially from Muslim-majority countries. The party's anti-immigration rhetoric gained traction among a populace angered by the attack, leading to a sharp rise in public support. In response to the overwhelming public outcry, the German government quickly introduced new laws that would not only tighten immigration controls, but also focus on public safety. Among these were proposals to expand no-weapon zones and strengthen restrictions on refugees who had previously been denied asylum. While some citizens viewed these changes as a much-needed shift, others feared that they could spark further division and contribute to a rise in xenophobia and Islamophobia within the country. Government's new stance on deportation. Germany has taken a significant shift in its deportation policies, focusing heavily on mass deportations, particularly for rejected asylum seekers. The government, led by Interior Minister Nancy Faeser, has introduced new legislation aimed at making deportations easier and faster. Key changes include extending the period for which rejected asylum seekers can be detained from 10 days to 28 to prevent last-minute failures in deportations. This change is crucial, as many deportations previously failed due to lack of cooperation, absence of identification papers, or legal hurdles involving the home countries refusing to take back their citizens. Another major move is giving more power to the police. Law enforcement can now search residences and electronic devices of migrants without prior notice, an attempt to eliminate identity fraud or hiding from authorities. This is an intense escalation from previous measures, where authorities were required to give advance warnings before deportations. The new measures also propose quicker deportations for individuals involved in criminal activities, even if they haven't committed offenses in Germany. The German government's latest stance is seen as a direct response to growing public dissatisfaction and pressure from anti-immigration political parties like the far-right AfD, which has been gaining support. With immigration becoming a heated issue and the rise in arrivals, particularly due to the Ukraine conflict, these policy changes aim to demonstrate a stronger grip on the situation. These new policies represent a significant break from previous, more lenient practices, reflecting a clear shift towards stricter immigration control. However, this has sparked controversy within Germany, with criticism from human rights groups and political parties that oppose such harsh measures, viewing them as an infringement on fundamental rights. The role of Islamophobia. Islamophobia in Germany has become an increasingly significant issue, especially with the rise of the far-right political party, Allianz für Deutschland, AfD. The party's rhetoric, particularly regarding Muslim immigration, has played a central role in shaping public opinion, contributing to an environment where fear and hostility towards Muslims are growing. The connection between the AfD's anti-immigration stance and the rise of Islamophobia is deeply intertwined, as the party often frames Muslims as a cultural and security threat to the country. The AfD's growth in popularity can be directly linked to their ability to tap into fears surrounding national identity, culture, and security. Many of their messages, while overtly focusing on immigration, contain Islamophobic undertones that paint Muslims as inherently incompatible with German values. By using inflammatory language and highlighting isolated incidents involving Muslim immigrants, such as the tragic killing of a police officer by an Afghan suspect, the AfD has been able to create a powerful narrative associating Muslims with violence and crime. This narrative is further supported by the media's coverage of crimes involving immigrants, which often sensationalizes incidents when Muslim immigrants are involved. For instance, the German public was shocked by the killing of the police officer, and radical Islamist praise for the crime online only intensified national outrage. This added to the perception that Muslim immigrants, especially those from countries like Afghanistan and Syria, pose a danger to public safety. Such stories feed into the growing narrative that the country is overrun by violent foreigners, despite Germany remaining one of the safest countries in the world. These perceptions are not only held by fringe groups, but are becoming more mainstream as the AfD and other far-right movements continue to rise. In recent elections, the AfD scored record results, signaling widespread support for their hardline immigration policies. They have called for mass deportations, especially of Muslim immigrants, under the pretext of protecting Germany's cultural integrity and security. This has contributed to a climate where Islamophobia is not only tolerated, but is increasingly seen as a legitimate political stance. Moreover, the AfD's influence extends beyond mere political discourse. Their rhetoric has emboldened other far-right groups, media outlets, and even individuals who share similar views on Muslim immigration. Hate speech and violence against Muslims in Germany have been on the rise, reflecting the dangerous real-world consequences of the growing normalization of Islamophobia. In fact, Germany saw a notable increase in hate crimes targeting Muslims, spurred in part by the toxic political environment created by parties like the AfD. This surge in Islamophobia has not only strained the relationship between Muslim communities and the broader society, but also threatens to deepen social divisions across Germany. Muslims in the country often face discrimination in various aspects of their lives, including in the workplace, in public spaces, and in accessing services. The more that Islamophobic rhetoric permeates political discourse, the more alienated these communities feel, leading to a growing sense of exclusion and marginalization. The German government has responded to the rise in Islamophobia and related hate crimes by implementing stricter measures against hate speech and promoting integration programs. However, the AfD's continued success suggests that their message resonates with a significant portion of the population, particularly in areas where economic hardship and social dislocation are more pronounced. These voters view Muslim immigration as a key issue and support the AfD's efforts to curtail it, even if it comes at the cost of social cohesion. Public opinion. Public opinion on immigration in Germany, particularly regarding Muslim immigrants, has shifted dramatically in recent years. The issue of immigration became a national debate during the refugee crisis in 2015, when Germany accepted over 1 million refugees, mostly from Muslim-majority countries like Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Initially, there was a large wave of public support, with many Germans rallying behind Chancellor Angela Merkel's open-door policy, promoting a welcoming atmosphere. However, this sentiment has changed over time, and much of the shift is tied to concerns about integration, national security, and cultural identity. Polls and surveys conducted in recent years indicate that a significant portion of the German population now expresses more negative views on immigration, particularly Muslim immigration. One of the key reasons for this change in public sentiment is a series of high-profile crimes that were linked to immigrants, especially from Muslim countries. Incidents of violence, such as sexual assaults during the 2015 to 2016 New Year's Eve celebrations in Cologne, and terrorist attacks linked to radical Islamist groups, have contributed to growing anxiety among the public. Statistics suggest that more Germans today view immigration, especially from Muslim-majority countries, as a threat to their way of life. A survey by the Bertelsmann Stiftung showed that more than half of the respondents felt that Islam was not compatible with Western values. These feelings are not just restricted to older generations. Even younger Germans, who traditionally held more liberal views, are now showing increasing concern about the cultural and security impacts of immigration. This shift in public sentiment is one of the key factors behind the rise of the far-right AfD party, which has capitalized on these fears by framing immigration as a direct threat to Germany's future. Interestingly, public opinion is often more complex than simply being for or against immigration. Many Germans differentiate between economic migrants and refugees, with more sympathy generally extended towards refugees fleeing war or persecution. However, even this empathy has limits. Surveys conducted by the Pew Research Center revealed that while Germans are still supportive of accepting refugees in theory, their support wanes when it comes to long-term integration, such as providing permanent residency or citizenship. Another factor influencing public opinion is the perception of how well immigrants, particularly Muslims, are integrating into German society. There is a prevailing belief among many that Muslims are struggling or unwilling to integrate, which further fuels negative views. Stories of parallel societies where Muslim communities are perceived to operate under different cultural and legal norms often dominate media discussions, exacerbating these concerns. This perception, whether based on reality or exaggerated by sensationalist reporting, plays a significant role in shaping the way many Germans view Muslim immigration. It's also worth noting that regional differences play a crucial role in shaping public opinion. In the former East Germany, where there are fewer immigrants overall, opposition to immigration is often stronger. This is partly because these regions have not experienced the same level of diversity as other parts of the country, making the arrival of large numbers of Muslim immigrants feel more disruptive to the social fabric. In contrast, in more cosmopolitan cities like Berlin, Hamburg, and Frankfurt, which have long been home to diverse populations, public opinion tends to be more supportive of immigration, though concerns about integration and security still exist. Ultimately, the shift in public opinion reflects a broader struggle over national identity and the future of Germany's role in the world. The fear of losing cultural cohesion, coupled with security concerns, is driving more people towards anti-immigration stances, with Muslim immigration at the center of the debate. This has led to increasing support for parties like the AfD, which have made opposition to immigration a cornerstone of their platform. Whether this trend will continue or reverse depends largely on future developments in integration policy, economic conditions, and how well the German government can address the underlying concerns driving these opinions. International repercussions. The potential global repercussions of Germany's immigration policies, especially regarding mass deportations of Muslim immigrants, are substantial and complex. One of the most significant impacts could be on Germany's relationships with countries in the Middle East and North Africa, MENA, regions from which a large proportion of Muslim immigrants originate. Germany has long been a key player in European diplomacy and foreign policy, maintaining stable relations with many countries in these regions. However, the deportation of large numbers of Muslim immigrants could strain these ties, leading to diplomatic tensions or even economic consequences. Many countries in the MENA region, such as Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq, have been deeply affected by war and political instability. Large populations from these nations fled to Europe seeking refuge, and Germany, under Chancellor Angela Merkel's leadership, played a significant role in providing sanctuary. However, as the country shifts towards a more hardline stance on immigration, particularly with the rise of the far-right AfD party, the decision to deport these immigrants could be seen as a betrayal by their countries of origin. Middle Eastern governments, already dealing with domestic instability, may find themselves unwilling or unable to cooperate with Germany in repatriating large numbers of deported individuals. Further complicating matters is the fact that many of the deportees could come from countries that Germany considers unsafe for return, such as Syria. International law prohibits deportations to countries where individuals could face persecution, torture, or death. Nevertheless, Germany's push for deportations could be interpreted as violating human rights by countries in the region, as well as by international organizations like the United Nations. Such actions might provoke widespread condemnation, particularly from governments and political groups in the Middle East, which could impact Germany's broader foreign policy objectives in the region. Beyond diplomatic tensions, economic repercussions are another key concern. Germany relies on energy imports from several MENA countries, including natural gas and oil from nations like Algeria and Libya. If these countries perceive Germany's immigration policies as hostile or discriminatory, it could lead to disruptions in these trade relationships. Middle Eastern and North African countries might also reconsider their partnerships with German businesses or reduce cooperation on key issues such as counterterrorism, migration control, and regional stability, which are crucial for Germany's economic and security interests. The effects could extend to other regions, particularly in the Muslim world. Countries such as Turkey, which has a long and complicated relationship with Germany, may view the deportation of Muslim immigrants as a hostile act, further deteriorating their diplomatic ties. Turkey, a critical partner in managing refugee flows into Europe, might react by loosening its controls on migration, potentially allowing more refugees to enter Europe, which could exacerbate the immigration crisis further. Additionally, countries like Iran, which already have strained relations with the West, may use Germany's hardline stance on Muslim immigration as propaganda, further criticizing Europe's treatment of Muslims and immigrants. Moreover, mass deportations could also spark reactions from international organizations and human rights groups. Germany, as a member of the European Union and a signatory to various international agreements, is expected to uphold certain human rights standards. If the deportations are perceived as unjust or inhumane, it could lead to widespread criticism from global organizations like the United Nations and Amnesty International. This, in turn, could harm Germany's reputation as a leader in humanitarian efforts and as a defender of human rights on the global stage. Future of immigration in Germany. The future of immigration in Germany, particularly regarding Muslim immigrants, hinges on a delicate balance of political, economic, and social factors. The rise of the far-right AfD party has pushed for stricter immigration policies and mass deportations, which resonate with a portion of the public concerned about national security and cultural identity. However, the political landscape in Germany is shaped by coalitions, meaning the AfD's influence may be limited by more moderate parties like the CDU and SPD, which could advocate for a more balanced approach. Economically, Germany is facing an aging population and labor shortages, which makes immigration vital for sustaining its workforce, particularly in key industries like healthcare and technology. Cutting off immigration too sharply could have long-term negative effects on the economy, forcing the government to reconsider its policies. Furthermore, continued mass deportations or harsh immigration measures could lead to social unrest, especially in diverse urban areas, where integration challenges have already created tensions. The future of immigration policy will likely involve managing these complexities while balancing the demands of far-right voters with the practical needs of the economy and social stability. How Germany handles integration and public sentiment will shape its immigration stance for years to come. Outro. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in our next video.